1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Hello, boys and girls. Hope you can hear me all right. Is my mouth close to the mic? Hello, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Let me pick the mic up. So today, 4 of my clients, voice is a bit croaky, 4 of my clients compared the experience of the traumatic conditions that they'd been through as being like being in a concentration camp. And very often I'm finding that I compare or think of complex PTSD resulting from whether it's childhood trauma, or sometimes I'm speaking to people and it's trauma from adolescence or even trauma in adulthood that manifests as complex PTSD, is like being a political prisoner, because you can't escape and you are facing often a form of psychological torture, a catch-22, a double bind, where you'll be given one injunction and the secondary injunction denies the primary injunction. A good way of torturing somebody psychologically would be to say, okay, we've got this massive warehouse and it's full of dust. And you, prisoner 1108, you're going to go in there and you're going to sweep up all the dust. And if you do it all within the next 7 days, so you set a paradigm, a parameter, then we'll reward you. And if you don't, we'll reward you. We'll give you an extra potato on Friday night, prisoner 1108. But if you don't, we'll take you out the back and we'll shoot you. Now, that is a high stress situation. It's a high demand situation where it's life or death. If you do it, then you'll be given more calories. Your survival depends on the intake of calories. If you don't do it, you get a bullet to the back of the head. That's pretty torturous in and of itself. But that doesn't even begin to describe the kinds of conditions that people are raised in. What then needs to happen is that the guards need to break the broom. So you get to day 2, you think you know how much sweeping up of this you're going to be able to do, and then all of a sudden somebody breaks the broom. So now you're dealing with half a broom. And then on day 3, day 4, they saw it down, so you're basically brushing up. You're on your hands and knees now with a brush in your hand. On day 5, if I really wanted to make you cry, I'd actually have you stand there and wait for the first 3 hours. So you've only got a 6-hour shift to sweep up all this dust, and I'm going to say, no, just stand there and wait. And I just look at you. Go, what? You know you've got to brush all this up. You're going to wait. I'm only going to give you 3 hours to get on your hands and knees. And then on the last day, I'd say do it with your hands. So you keep changing the parameters. The rules have to change. It's not strictness necessarily that screws people up. It's unfairness and injustice and the changing of the parameters. A joke that I have with one of my longest term clients, it's not a very nice joke. Most of the humour that we share is pretty bleak. It's pretty dark, but that's because the experiences that she's been through are pretty bleak and pretty dark. She's from a country in the former, that is from the former Soviet Union, and I was trying to explain the way in which she'd been psychologically abused when she was a kid. And I said, look, imagine we have 2 gulags where we send our political prisoners. We have my gulag and we have your gulag. I said this to my client. In your gulag, anybody who is against the Communist Party, every morning at 6 a.m., you line them up and you beat them across their backs with a rubber hose, and then you spray them with cold water and you say, screw you, you filthy anti-communist scum. You deserve this pain. We hate you. And then you let them clean themselves up and they talk to each other and they say, God, we hate these guards. You know, we hate the Communist Party. Look at what they've done to us, those bastards. And you solidify in your sense of unity and self. In my gulag, the much more evil gulag, I do the same thing. I wake you up at 6 a.m. I beat you with rubber hoses across the back, and then I spray you with cold water. But I do not say that I'm beating you for being anti-communist. I do not call it beating at all. I call it love. I call it education. I call it giving you a wash. Good morning, I'm going to give you a wash now. Why are you crying? There is no pain. What's the problem? What are you crying for? I'm not hurting you. You're beating me with a rubber hose. No, I'm not, comrade. You are confused. Why are you squirting me with cold water? The water is warm. I don't know what your problem is. You're just hypersensitive. In this way, you erode the person's ability to distinguish between reality and subjective experience, and to blur that boundary. I've talked a lot about blurring boundaries between people, but there's also boundaries within the self that get corroded. If your problems were just that your boundaries with the people were blurry and you just had people pleaser syndrome, you'd get traction in your life really, really quickly. I've seen it happen. People can turn around inside of 2 weeks, but it's worse than that. Your boundaries between perceived reality and real reality get all blurred, and you don't know what's real and what's not. How much of that, if I starved you, not starved you, but maybe I put you on a low calorie diet, just give you like 500 calories a day, just enough to do the bit of labor that I give you, mind-numbingly boring labor. I give you the right to sleep for maybe 4 or 5 hours a night, but it's in really uncomfortable cold conditions. Slowly, you get exhausted, you get tired, you get frightened, you get paranoid, and all the while I'm beating you and telling you I'm not beating you, and that I'm educating you and I'm showing you love. In 1984, the torture dungeon of ultimate mind control, where they would take people to break their spirits before they shot them, was called the Ministry of Love. That's abuse. Punching you is one thing, but punching you and telling you I stroked your face a little bit too hard is another. I've probably told this story before. I once was bit by a dog on the arse in a park in Bevington. I was doing a morning jog, and I ran past an owner and the dog, and I didn't know much about dogs at that time, but I think this was an old dog, and he was a bit deaf, and he didn't hear me coming, and he's with his owner, and he wants to protect the owner, so he jumps up and bites me on the arse, hard enough to make me bleed, and I have a red patch of blood across I'm wearing grey cotton pants, and I'm like, your dog just bit me, and the owner said, my dog did not bite you, he merely brushed you with his teeth as he jumped forward, and his teeth brushed a little too hard into your arse. And I was thinking, well, I'm not going to punch you, I'm going to stroke you with my knuckles. Giving somebody the right to be abused will preserve their sanity. So, you hit me. Yes, that's right, I hit you. Why did you hit me? Because I fucking hate you. That is abuse, for sure, but it's nowhere near as abusive as saying, no, I didn't hit you, you're confused. Or, I only hit you because I love you. Or, this is part of your re-education process, comrade. You just won't listen. You don't understand the truth. There is no truth but communism, and everything else is a delusion. It's crazy. You can't. What's wrong with you? Why do you make me hurt you by denying the truth of communism? Come on, comrade, please don't make. Please, this hurts me more than it hurts you. Believe me. This brutality, I despise it, but it's a necessary evil. Do you see how the reframing of the narrative is what does the damage? Because you won't have a porous ego boundary if I just beat you. If anything, you'd have a stronger one. Especially if you as a group, all you group of anti-communists who've been beaten with rubber hoses, you get to go, God, those communist bastards will prevail, brothers. We'll keep going. Just stay strong in the faith, whatever it is, whatever that narrative is. You're impervious, not porous, as a whole, as a boundary entity. So anyway, that's my little thought on political prisoners. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll speak to you again soon. Thank you.